What's up, eggheads? We're taking our egg to the dentist and fixing an underbite. So you may have noticed that your egg may have a little bit of an underbite or overbite on the lid. Mine happens to have a slight underbite right now, which means that the lid does not stick out quite as far as the bottom does, all right? So it's like this, and we have a little bit of an underbite. We're gonna show you how to fix that. It's an easy band adjustment. This adjustment is if you have the old style bands, okay? This egg was my original egg. I got it 7 years ago. The bands are the original bands. So we're gonna show you how to do this for the original bands. I wanna note that because when we did our gasket video, a lot of people said, hey, mine doesn't work like that. So I just wanna make sure that we're working on the correct ones, all right? Now, the first thing we have to do is check to see how bad our underbite is. So let's check that out first. So I'm kind of doing these videos a little bit out of order because I made a mistake when I put the Rutland gasket into mine. What happened was I had this underbite, and what that did is that when I closed it, it actually pushed the gasket forward. So I only have adhesion on about half of my Rutland gasket in the back. It really pushed it forward a lot. So I may have to replace this section back here. I'd like to avoid you having to do that, so make sure you do this part before you put your new gasket in. Even if you're putting a regular BGE gasket in, whichever one you're putting in, make sure you fix your dome and make sure that it's perfectly lined up with the bottom before you do your new gasket. Pro tip. The process for loosening these things is really simple. You just need a few basic tools. 1/2 inch wrench, okay? I got a 7/16 socket and a 1/2 inch socket as well. So you can use whichever one you want. I'm comfortable with a wrench and a socket. You'll see why the difference is. So we know why we're doing what we're doing, let me explain to you how this happens. The reason that it works is that the bands are not at the same heights, at the right heights on the egg itself in order to be able to close so that it seals properly. That's what we want to fix. Now, what happens is that you can see on the bottom band here, there's just a tiny little bit of green showing above the band. Just a tiny little bit. But as we go around and follow it around to the back of the egg here, you can see it separates and there's a lot more distance between the band and the gasket here. As a matter of fact, it's sitting right on this band here. This band on the base and on the dome is not meant to hold this band up. It's not supposed to touch that. You're supposed to have some separation like what you see here, whereas in the back you can see it's actually sitting right on it. So we're gonna loosen the nuts in the back and adjust this, and we're gonna adjust it on the top as well. Our first step in the process is gonna be to loosen these nuts and bolts on the bands. Now you see how the bands are bent and you can see the bolts themselves are actually bent? That's okay, it's supposed to be that way. You literally cannot tighten these enough that it's gonna make the dome crack or anything like that. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna loosen these up, take our 1/2 inch socket and loosen it up just enough so we can just barely move the bands. We don't want them to be running loose. We wanna be able to just barely move them. All right, so I'm going in small increments so that we don't go too far, okay? Okay, now you can see how I could just barely move it. We still want some tension on there. We don't want them just running what I call willy-nilly loose, all right? Otherwise, they'll get out of control and you won't be able to get your band set properly. So that was our first step, is to loosen these enough, just enough that we can just barely move them, okay? Now we're gonna switch out our sockets, take off the 1/2. We're gonna put on the 7/16. You see these springs here? Don't touch them, leave them alone. We're not gonna do anything with them. What we are gonna do is on the top band, we're going to loosen these nuts. They are 7/16 size. We're going to loosen them up so that when we adjust the hinge, it's going to give it a little bit of movement and be able to have some play in there. Now, when you get a new egg, it's going to come with these spacers here that you can use to put in between the dome and the base. And it's going to kind of give you a guideline for where you want them separated. Since we installed the Rutland gasket and it's a little bit thicker, it's really not going to work for this application. But if you have the big green egg gaskets, you can use this. It just slides right in between the dome and the base, and it'll give you a separation that you're looking for. Now, in order to correct this, you can see once everything's loosened up, the two bands here are loose, the top nuts are loose, all we can do is we just take this and just sort of adjust it and push it. You could actually push it forward, and you can see the dome move right into place, right where we're gonna want it. So now that the dome is in the right place, the next thing to do is to adjust the bottom band to the right level where we want it. Again, we want just a small amount of green showing above the band, just like this. So we're going to go ahead and adjust this all the way around so we have just barely a tiny bit of green showing above the band. Now once you've got the entire band in the right place, we're going to snug up, we're going to snug up this bottom band. Okay, again, you want to tighten it up enough so that this bolt and these two tabs are bending. You can really crank down on these things. You're not going to break the egg by tightening these, I promise you. Now the way we readjust this, it actually has a little bit of an overbite. So we want to push this back. So we're going to go back to the back. We're gonna grab this hinge like this and just pull it back just a touch. There we go. Now that should be, yeah, that's some nice alignment right there. Now, as you can see, our top and our bottom are aligned perfectly. No overbite, no underbite. Orthodontics at its best right here. I know. It's a little bit of a nerve-wracking process, right? Trust me, I know. It was even a little bit nerve-wracking for me to undertake the first time. But as you can see so far, it's a really simple process. It just takes a little bit of time and patience. I'm not known for having great patience, so this is a great test for me. But yeah, we're halfway there. The bottom bands are done. Our next step, we're going to adjust the top band so that the same thing. So there's just a small amount of green between the gasket and the band. So let's go ahead and start adjusting that top band so we can get this project finished with. We're going to do the same thing to the top band that we did to the bottom. We're going to adjust it so that there's just a touch of green, just barely showing. We're going to go all around the whole egg and make sure it's level all around. We want a nice space in between here and here. So we have right here, that's about perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. And now we've got it right where we want it, perfectly level all around. And we're back to our 1/2 inch socket and tighten this baby down. You're gonna wanna check around as you're going through this to make sure that the band didn't move, but you should be all right. Now the nice part is we only loosened the top bolts here, not the bottom. So we're gonna tighten these, but we're gonna start with the inside bolt here first and tighten this one all the way down. Okay, just gonna give it nice and snug. That's snug. And then we're not gonna go to this one, we're gonna go to the inside one on the other side. And now with these ones here, you can hand tighten these first before you crank down on them, that's fine. So we're gonna get them nice and hand tight, and then we're just gonna give a couple turns and tighten them up with our trusty socket. We're gonna hand tighten this and give it a couple turns with the old ratchet here. Plenty tight. We've got a lot of back and forth, I know, but we're just gonna tighten this down. And that is our last nut that we have to tighten. Voila. And that is Egg Dentistry 101. The last thing to do is we want to test the dome, make sure that when we open and close it, it's still going to fit right. So let's give her a good opening. Okay, looks good, still works well. We close it up. Perfect. Now, because of the Rutland gasket, it kind of looks like there still is, but they are absolutely 100% perfectly lined up. You know what? This whole thing only took about 10 minutes to do. 10 minutes, not very long. It's really simple. Don't let it scare you. It's very excellent to do, probably like once a year or so. You want to check everything, make sure everything is lined up. You also want to, when you do this, you might get a little gap. Do the old dollar bill test or a piece of paper, put it in there, tug it out. You should have a little bit of resistance. It should not slide super easily. If it does, just loosen up that top band again, just push down on the dome so that it's sitting perfectly, and then just crank down on it again and tighten it back up. That's all there is to it. So, Egg Dentistry 101, like I said, it's an excellent idea, and I didn't exaggerate. It only took about 10 minutes to do. That's a lot of egg jokes in one sentence. So, anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this. If you want to see something that you need fixed on your egg or want us to handle something for showing you how to do on the Big Green Egg, let us know. We'd love to fix it and love to help you know better about egging. So, as a reminder, get out and grill, and I'll see you the next time on the FOGO Life.